to Retro Groove. Enjoy your voyage.
Howdy and welcome to Retro Groove. I'm Adam C.
And I'm Liam D.
And this is a podcast where we talk about music that stands the test of time, the albums and artists that have shaped and reshaped the sonic landscape, as well as covering new music from those artists. Welcome to episode 20. We made it.
Big time.
We made it.
I mean, we're going on a year almost here then. If this is
coming
this
up
is episode
pretty
20.
close.
Wow.
To a year. I didn't know quite what to expect when we kind of had our initial little conference call and threw ideas around and came up with the overall concept and recorded our first episode. I didn't know that if we would have 3 listeners or end up with 3,000 eventually, but we're actually getting pretty close to 3,000 unique downloads. So
amazing.
Thank you all for listening and continuing to listen every week. We're happy to be here, and I'm happy to announce that we are having our very first Weird Al Yankovic episode.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of surprised it took this long.
Yeah. True.
To be honest.
Yeah.
Because how many of us kind of in our relative age bracket I can only speak for myself, I guess, but I can attribute a lot of my initial early pop musical discoveries and experiences directly to Weird Al songs.
Yeah. He's a gateway drug. I feel like for so many people, he's a gateway drug.
Gateway drug.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're going to dedicate our entire side B to Weird Al and his legacy and his history and his future and his amazing catalog. And we'll talk about our own experiences with Al himself. But first, Liam, how's it going, man? It's been quite a week or two, huh?
Yeah, it's been a lot. I don't know, like work is cranking up and things are happening, and I'm socializing a whole lot more in like the old way than I used to.
The old way, yeah.
for better or for worse, but I feel like I'm getting coffee with people again, like for work, and I'm like, okay, this is like a thing we do. We go out and get a latte and sit across from each other and talk. But yeah, I'm good. I also, I posted a couple photos in our Discord the other night. I went out to a show in the city and I drank more than I've had to drink in a very long time.
Oh boy.
And I didn't get home till almost 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh
and
boy.
I'm 37, and so that doesn't really really work out good. So good. Man, that was Friday night and my Saturday was shot. Like I between being out that late and having a couple drinks, man, it was a trip. But I got to see Arcade Fire. They're back.
Man.
It was cool. I got to show you this. So one of the things in talking about what I bought. So I don't know if you've listened to the new song that they just put out. It's like a 2-part song. It's technically 2 songs.
I did. I watched the music video. Uh-huh.
Oh, I haven't seen the music video.
Yeah, it's on
I have
YouTube.
to check that out. But the song's fantastic. I liked the Reflector album. I thought it was really good. I just you don't know what to expect here. And this feels like that Tom Petty, Springsteen, War on Drugs kind of lane that feels kind of nice right now. I don't know. Like when I heard this, it felt good. That's all I know is like I heard this and I'm like, this feels good. And so they had this, look at this vinyl. No one else can see it except for you, but like this nice, like
Ooh.
marble thunderstorm kind of vinyl single for
It kind of looks like
it.
an eyeball, sort
Yeah.
of
Well,
like
and
the
it's like a
little.
whole thing. They're like doing an eyeball thing.
Oh,
There's like
that's cool.
they had like t-shirts with eyeballs spray painted on it and a huge like inflated eyeball over the stage. So there's
Nice.
something going on there. But it was great. It was cool to be at a show. I candidly, like, I like the Arcade Fire. I couldn't name 10 of their songs. Like, I know a bunch of them. I own some of their albums. I've listened through a bunch of them, but like, I couldn't sing you the lyrics. I'm not like deep dive
A
guy
super fan,
on them,
right?
but it was just a good time. It was one of those things where
Yeah.
you're just there. And I was with a couple good people from work, and it was I just immersed in it, and it felt good. And so
Nice.
I just popped for tickets to go see Glassjaw next week. I think
Oh,
I'm going to go see another show at the very beginning of April. Like, I think I'm getting there, man. Like, I was there
nice.
last year for a little bit, and now I was like,
Yeah.
Omicron and all that. But I don't know. I feel like I just feel it feels right, and so I'm gonna go when it feels right, and I'm gonna skip when it doesn't.
There you go.
Yeah,
That's the best you can do.
yeah. How
I
about
mean,
you?
I'm in the same boat with Arcade Fire. I'm not a super fan, but really enjoy some of their albums and a good number of their songs. The music video is great. I really enjoyed it. To me, it sort of sounded like they were coming back to it sounds a lot more like their first couple albums to
It
me.
does, yeah.
But not in a like, well, let's go back to what we used to do kind of way. It feels fresh,
Yeah.
which is good. I think a lot more bands should do that. Doing pretty good. I did make it out to my local, or one of my locals that I don't typically get to, which is Breakaway. We actually braved some of the South by Southwest traffic.
Oh,
Had
man.
a couple of things to do in the city. Yeah. So made it to Breakaway Records, one of my favorite in Austin proper locals, and found a couple to fill out the collection. Finally grabbed a copy of the self-titled First Cars album, which has, basically all of the Cars hits.
Yeah.
If if I asked anybody to name 3 or 4 Cars songs, they would all be from that first album.
Yeah.
Basically. So I got that one finally on vinyl. Also felt the last time I picked up a Dire Straits album, I thought that completed my Dire Straits discography, but I was actually missing one, and so I picked up that one today, pretty cheap. The spine is a little bit messed up, but I don't care because I'm just trying to complete the discography.
Yeah.
So I got Communique, which I'd been missing.
Nice.
A really good, underrated, and kind of under the radar Dire Straits album. But I love it. I've been listening to kind of a hodgepodge. I go through phases of listening to synthwave, which is kind of that 80s throwback, retro style, video game and 80s movie inspired music. And probably my favorite artist from that, super niche genre is a guy called Wave Shaper. And I don't know if it's going to kind of conglomerate into a thing, but earlier this year he put out a single, and gosh, now of course I'm not going to remember the name, but it was something Bot. And this month he put out a single called Terabot. And so I don't know if it's going to kind of all come together like Voltron into a larger thing. But it's really, really good. And so I've been listening to that. And of course, it's just a single, so it kind of just whets your appetite. So I've been going back and listening to his Mainframe album, which came out last year. So if you're into, video games and 80s culture and things like that, it's such a trip. So I've been enjoying that. My daughter, we were driving, and my youngest daughter, she's turning 6 later this month. and she said, "Dad, can we listen to the Pollution song?" And I was thinking, like, what? Like,
what is
she
that?
talking about? Captain Planet? Like, she doesn't know who Captain Planet is. Like, what?
That is where my head went too.
And she kind of has really good pitch. Like, when she's singing along to something, like, I'm always impressed by her pitch, particularly for her age. And she like sang a little part of it, and all of a sudden it dawned on me she was literally asking for Noise Pollution by Portugal the Man.
Oh wow! Oh my gosh!
Yes, I know what. And I was like, okay, sure.
You just never know what's going to stick, right? That's crazy.
I know. So, and that I don't know. Somehow that stuck with her, and I don't even know how initially she heard it. Obviously, it's been around the house or in the car at some point. So we went through a number of the songs on that album. So it's kind of reinvigorated my Portugal the Man fandom.
They're great.
But that's a really good album. I kind of went through a lot of it and heard some of the songs that I might have skipped over, or only, you hear it once and it kind of feels like background noise until the next quote unquote hit comes along. And I'm like, man, this is a really solid album. So
yeah. Well, I think they're out with Alt J. If it's not announced, like if it's not routed yet, I think they've talked about them going out together this summer. So I don't know, man.
That'll be awesome.
I don't know if you're bringing your daughter to an Alt J concert. That seems a little proggy.
Probably not. Probably not. But that sounds fun for me.
That does sound fun. Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
That might be, something I'd be interested in, because I still have yet to be a concert goer, quote unquote, post COVID.
Yeah, there's no post COVID.
No, there's probably not. No. But since it all began, I haven't ventured out just yet.
Yeah.
And that would do it for me. I would love to see a show like that.
Now, I didn't see or hear on your list here the Black Keys, who dropped a new song. I don't know if you've listened to it yet.
Oh.
Yeah.
I knew they had a new album coming out soon.
New song, Wild Child. Rumored, it sounds, it's got a ZZ Top kind of, it's their like dirty blues rock. It's exactly what you want it to be. It's pretty badass. But rumor that Billy Gibbons is going to be on this album. Yeah. So
really?
So we'll see. And
that'll be fun.
And they're out this summer with Band of Horses, who just put out a gorgeous album.
Oh my God.
So
that'd be another good one.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones. Everything's kind of lining up. We've got new Muse that just came out as well, a new song from Muse, and obviously we talked about Arcade Fire. There's just new Florence. Like, there's just so much good stuff out right now.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like coming out of having COVID or, just having been home with my kids for 2 weeks and then spring break happened. So I'm like not on top of things like I normally would be, but there's a lot of new stuff coming out and I'm kind of missing it.
This is the time it's going to happen. Like the next month or two, because everybody's announcing their summer tours. Everybody's trying to get out there. And so now is the time when vinyl pre-orders are going up and singles are being dropped and everybody's going to put out their album. That's
hype.
Props to Spoon for just getting out of the gate and being like, we need this out there. We need to go and let's rock it, because they knew that you're going to have Chili Peppers, Black Keys, Muse, Arcade Fire, like all of these things coming. It's going to be banger of a year. A lot of really cool stuff.
Oh, it feels like it. So great year to be a music fan, it sounds like.
Yeah, for sure. I went down and I thought there was more of it. I've been watching Atlanta. I don't know if you've ever seen that show on FX. I'm watching it on Hulu. And I'd held off on it because it seemed like the kind of show that you really need to sit down and start at the beginning. You couldn't just like jump into it. It's not like Community or anything else. And I love Donald Glover. I love Childish Gambino. I think he's hilarious. I have his stand-up DVDs. Like, I think he is a real talent. There's some very talented people who I have less patience with to engage with their art, and then there's people like him where I'm like, you do you, man. Like, you're just gonna like go to left field, and I'll follow you there.
I feel like he's one of the very few true Renaissance men right now.
Does everything.
Renaissance persons, however you want to say it. But for real, like 100%.
The show is inspired, and the cool thing and the reason why I jumped into it now is he announced that they had shot both the third and fourth seasons, and then that the show's over. He's like, he's like, he has an arc, he has it set, he shot the whole thing, and so it's like now I feel like I can jump in because it's not something that's going to be leading me on for a few years. Like it's just going to be like the third season's going to come out soon, and then the fourth season's going to probably drop at the end of the year, maybe early next year, and then it's done. I just I have such a commitment issue jumping in on something that is just like potentially open-ended and going to go on for forever.
Right.
But what happened is then I was going through what I have, and I have all the Gambino albums in some format, but I was listening back to a bunch of his stuff because of that, the early EPs and everything. And I was like, man, Awaken My Love is an album that I should own on vinyl.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so good. And I was like, this is the album. I have Camp on vinyl because like I was such a fan at the time that I just bought it. But it's not a vinyl album for me. Like I don't put on that record and just kind of vibe. Like those are individual tracks, and there's some tracks that are real heavy hitters on that first like full length album. Awaken My Love is like you throw the needle on and just let it take you. And so so I picked up a copy of that. Like I was kind of mulling through my local a couple days ago, and I saw that, and like I said, I'd been watching Atlanta, and I was like, you know what, I should have this on vinyl. It's the cover art is gorgeous and cool and haunting, and the album just it's just super cool. So I grabbed that. And then awesome. Texas Trey, you know, I said it in the Discord, I'll say it on here. Like he had shouted out months ago that I should check out The Weaker Thans, and I had kind of backburnered it and never spent the time. And on it, like I was taking a long walk on the beach. Like my wife was like up ahead of me looking for sea glass, and I had my headphones on, and I was like, we were just kind of doing like a simultaneous parallel walk on the beach, and I was just kind of vibing. And I was like, what do I want to listen to? And I thought, like, you know what, I've been holding off. I don't have anything that I want to throw on my ears in this moment right now. And it was the perfect thing to listen to, dude. It, like the songwriting was so good. It like scratched this like Ben Gibbard, John Darnell place. And now I'm all in. So props to Trey. Props to that band. Like I gotta now I'm like looking up what vinyl records of theirs I can buy, and how you know, you get into your fandom and you start doing your deep dives, and I'm like, yes, all right, how do I catch up, you know?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I mean, I pre-ordered I impulse pre-ordered a vinyl record, and we'll see. I keep forgetting about these. I have one that was supposed to be delivered already, and I'm sure the production's all over the place. It was like a lo-fi Metroid album that I pre-ordered back in June of last year. It's like in line with the Zelda and Chill and Mario and Chill and whatever. Right. And it's Samus and Chill, and it still hasn't shown up. And so then I saw, as I was checking on the status of that, I saw this orchestral arrangement, like interpretation of the music from Fire Emblem Three Houses, which I just completed and I fell in love with, and I love Fire Emblem. And I looked, and it was like only $30, and it's this gorgeous 180 gram like gold splatter vinyl, and I'm like, and I sat there for 5 minutes, and I'm like, I have to buy this
for
thing,
$30 though, because you know that's not going to stay $30.
I know.
Skyrocket.
Yeah,
if you know anything about video game music vinyl.
That's the thing, man. And I will listen to this. That's my problem, is that I've grabbed a handful of video game vinyl, and it's been good for the wall, but like I haven't actually sat and thrown the records on, and it makes me feel guilty. Like part of it has just been like, oh my God, I love this game, I love this music, and throw it up. Like I have the Celeste soundtrack. I should listen to the Celeste soundtrack. I just haven't, you know, but I threw it up on the wall because it's gorgeous artwork and I love that game.
Right.
But this one I know I'm going to listen to. Like there was they did a similar one for Majora's Mask, and I listened to that a bunch when I was feeling dark. And this one I feel like is going to get me kind of hyped. Like there's a good energy and inspiration to this. I think I got a digital download because I think it came bundled with it. And it's funny, this kind of music, I was in Ireland before the pandemic, February 2020, like right before everything shut down, and I had this kind of stuff for Legend of Zelda just downloaded on my phone over there, and I was like climbing a mountain and threw it on, like I was like scaling a mountain in this like misty beautiful day and threw it on, and it was just like the perfect soundtrack for an endeavor like that. And so now I'm like, I got to get this Fire Emblem stuff on my phone. And then what am I doing? Like, what's the awesome thing that I'm going to do to this music? Like, what am I soundtracking? So now I got to come up with something cool to do, like with this music in there. We'll figure it out. I think I'm going to Scotland in a month and a half. My wife is like planning this whole trip. So I'm going to download it on my phone, keep it there. And if something cool happens in Scotland, I'm going to toss it on. We'll see.
That could work.
That could work. Yeah.
I love the building the like once in a lifetime travel experience around the soundtrack rather than vice versa.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, like
that's how it happens, right?
Have you not ever soundtracked your life a little bit where you're like, this has been like late night walking home from a date or something, and like you throw on the right like lovesick song or something, like you can soundtrack yourself a little bit.
You're living in your own biopic. That's
exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we got some news, and we've got some new releases to touch on a little bit.
Yeah. I can dive into a couple of these things if you want. So Grammy's coming up. By the time this comes out, we'll be right on the cusp of it. They've already announced the first set of performers. No surprises here. Definitely stuff to be excited about, but they're swinging for the fences to be as relevant and topical as possible, which the Grammys really have to do. And again, like we've talked about it before, but women just owning it. Billie Eilish, Brandi Carlile, Olivia Rodrigo. I mean, it's going to be a killer lineup, a killer show. I think I've talked on here before about how I can't really watch these things because it gives me anxiety. So I'll probably just catch the highlights the next day, but just like the majority of people. But I will say, my daughter's been really into BTS. They're performing, so I'm sure we're going to rewatch that or catch that. That's going to be a cool performance. But at the festivals that I was at last summer, I saw Jack Harlow twice, and I didn't get him at first. Like, he's this like white rapper dude who like just seems unassuming in a pair of jeans, but like commanded the audience. And by the second time I saw him, I was like, yeah, there's something special there. There's something happening there. Like the audience was massive both times, and they were in his hand, unlike most performers that you see. There was a weird thing going on there, and he'll be performing with Lil Nas X at the Grammys, and I think that's going to be a big moment. Like, I feel like that's going to shape up. I mean, Lil Nas X does crazy stuff, and I just him with Jack, I don't know what they have planned, but could be pretty cool.
Yeah, because it seems like Lil Nas X is all about like the
shock factor. Yeah.
Shock factor, like, and not maybe quite as much shock factor as like the theatrics of it all.
Yeah.
Creating, set pieces and these, visual aspects of it. And you're right. Jack Harlow seems more like, I'm a dude. This is what I do. I'm going to, rock my
white t-shirt and
unassuming
chain. Yeah, it's just like he looks like he's a good-looking college dude. It just doesn't ever speak to me in that sense. But his music's good, his rhymes are good. He carries himself really well. So
it's just an interesting pairing to me.
Yeah, I agree.
So that'll be interesting to see. Also, it's kind of getting to the point with like those, particularly kind of with artists like those two. We're kind of getting old enough towards like Okay, I don't really get it. They're clearly incredibly popular with a newer generation, and I just don't really see it. But props to them for doing whatever it is that completely connects with that new generation coming up. I have nothing against it. I'm very open to whatever. But it's kind of, that's a new generation, and I'm from an older generation than that, and I really don't quite get it, but that's okay.
Yeah, hashtag
enjoy
old.
It.
Yeah.
Hashtag old guy.
Yeah,
but I don't have to get it. It's let them do their thing and change the culture in the way that they want to, and there's going to be artists for me and you, and there's going to be artists for the younger generation, and hopefully there's artists for everybody as well.
Yeah.
I know we've got a number of new releases. One thing that really surprised me, today as we're recording this is the 20th, the first day of spring. And I was looking at new releases and I was like, wait, hold up. This Weezer, we talked about this on a previous episode.
Yeah.
But today, the Weezer, it's called
Seasons Spring. Yeah.
SZNZ, Seasons.
Yes. Yeah.
It dropped today.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's crazy. It's a Sunday. What is going on? And then it dawned on me, today's the first day of spring. It's the spring Weezer Seasons album. Okay.
Yep.
Put two and two together.
Yeah. So they're EPs now. So they had initially said that these were going to be albums. They're not full albums.
Okay.
And it's EPs. Yeah. Yeah.
So I did a quick, and I literally just was made aware of this like 2 hours before we started recording. So I did a quick like cursory listen, and like the first song I absolutely hated. The second song I really, really liked. So I don't know yet. The jury is still out. We'll see.
Yeah. I feel like, look, Weezer does their spring and summer pop hits. I feel like If You Want Me To and I'm Your Daddy, like there's stuff on a bunch of those albums. Feels Like Summer. Like they have a knack for writing those light pop songs. And I think that this is a great pocket for them. Call me in fall and winter, like take me to the Black Album, take me to Everything Will Be Okay in the End. Like some of the, like obviously the earlier Pinkerton stuff. Like I like it when Rivers is in maybe a darker place or a more reflective place.
Sure.
Not to say that I don't want the guy to be happy, but I feel like I'm interested what Weezer sounds like in the fall and winter. So I'll cheer these things on, and I'll probably check back in once we get into later in the year.
There we go.
So Fife Dog, we talked about at a couple episodes ago. This is finally happening. The album that he was working on alongside his work on the last Tribe Called Quest album. They've been working on this for years now, and it's finally coming out, and I'm super excited to check that out. Chili Peppers album, I admittedly haven't listened to anything yet from it.
Nope,
I'm interested. I don't know what to expect. I didn't hate the last album. I didn't listen to it a ton, but hot and cold on that band.
Right.
I want to go in with medium to low expectations, but John Frusciante's in the band. So I do feel like there's a little bit of an inclination for me to think that this will be something special.
Yeah. There's a higher potential there for it to be something that I care about.
Yeah.
I hate to put it that way, but I've been lukewarm on Chili Peppers for, as long as I've known that they've existed.
Yeah.
I don't hate them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to change the channel if it comes on the radio.
Right.
But I'm not going to be like, oh, let me search for Red Hot Chili Peppers and listen to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
now you pre-ordered the Lucius album, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's coming soon.
Love Lucius. That's funny because that's like their Twitter handle. I love
I love
Lucius.
Lucius.
But I adore this group. I have had it pre-ordered for a while. They've been dropping singles every 2 to 4 weeks here and there, and I have. I thought I had every single one of their albums. Somehow I'm missing their first album, so I still need to go back and grab their first album on vinyl. But I have all the other ones. I'm a huge fan of theirs. I love the way that, the for those that don't know, the general sound of the band is, the two amazingly talented women that harmonize with each other and have a very similar, and I think they kind of stylize it to where they look very, very similar. They'll wear wigs and dress the same and things like that. Mm-hmm. But their harmonies are incredible.
Crazy.
They'll harmonize with each other, and it just sounds absolutely angelic. And then a super talented backing band. And I just adore this group, and more people should know about them, and more people should listen to them. So this new album has seemingly sort of a disco late 70s vibe to it, and I'm really, really enjoying it. So I cannot wait to hear the full album, and hopefully the vinyl arrives relatively on time.
I'm starting to see that. There were a few things that I went looking for recently that did have vinyl. There were a few things that didn't. I think that the artists and the labels are getting into a cadence. I think maybe the time has been cut back from a year to 8 months or 6 months or something. I'm hearing various things from different experiences, but I do think that there's a bit of a cadence. There's been a few projects that I've heard about that were pushed to make sure that they can align with product better.
Right.
I think that as everyone's getting back into this kind of industry reset this year in many ways, that there will be less of these instances where things don't arrive day and date, and if they're not, it's a 2-day delay or it's a week delay. It's not 6 months and you still don't see vinyl for massive albums.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm also seeing, so there was a Weekend album that was released back in January that's really good, and I'm seeing I got a targeted ad to Target for an exclusive vinyl that looks really cool, and I don't own this album yet. And so I saw this and I'm like, am I gonna pre-order a vinyl record from Target right now? I never thought that I would do that. What world am I living in? So I guess if they can get product into Target for an exclusive, pressing, things must be looking up a little bit,
Yeah, they've had a number of exclusives.
So weird.
It is a little weird. Yeah. For, you think of Target and it's kind of,
I mean, they always had CD exclusives. Target had weird things like that, especially in the country space. There would be lots of albums that would have, it was kind of like iTunes would have that. If you bought stuff on iTunes back in the day, there'd be an iTunes exclusive track. And then there would be a Target exclusive track on a Kelly Clarkson or a Taylor Swift album or something,
Crazy.
That was a thing that they would do because it was such a mover of physical product. But I don't even, I know that there's one end cap near the books in my local Target, but that's it, it
does feel like an afterthought when you go into the actual physical location, right?
Yeah. There's nothing
the
there.
Same 6 albums every time.
Yeah. It's like a Dolly Parton record, a Garth Brooks, it's like a couple things that you're going to be able to buy Imagine Dragons albums there, or
right.
Coldplay, right? You can get those.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah. But, so it's weird. I mean, the Weekend is huge, so I guess that makes sense. But yeah, no, it seemed a little odd, but I haven't clicked yes yet, but I might, And then Father John Misty album also out April 8th. Excited to hear another one that I haven't really dived in on the singles too much, but he always, another very creative, unique artist that I can't not have a bunch of respect for. I've seen him live a few times, and
Oh, nice.
The guy's a performer, man. The guy is
Yeah.
he's fantastic. So I'm excited to check this out. I don't know what to expect from the Jack White album.
I don't either, because he's
hit or miss, man. And I love that guy, but like it's who knows what he's going to be. I think it just depends on like what records he's listening to and working on at the time that he then decides that he's going to channel for his own music. There was a thing that happened at South by that I just thought was interesting to float in case you had any thoughts on like a bigger ramification of it. But Beck did a keynote conversation there in Austin, and within the conversation said that he was in the process of re-recording a bunch of his songs like Loser and Where It's At, like some of the bigger hits. And he said something, I'm going to paraphrase, but he said something to the effect, kind of like Taylor Swift. He's like, it's interesting seeing what she's done, obviously under her circumstances being really awful, and why she's done it. But he's like, it is interesting that like, he's like, I go back to my old music and there's things that I would change. It doesn't make sense to me, as if you think about it, that the one and only version that needs to exist of a song is the take that I landed on, all those years ago. And I think all of us as consumers have gotten used to like, there's the existing version, right? And that's the recorded version. And that's hear that. That's the canon version. And then if there's a live album, right, then like maybe you hear a live version of the song and it's a little different and they sound different, but it might be cool for a reimagining. It started me down this road of like, I could get behind certain artists that I love going back in and reimagining things. And it did spark in me. So the emo kid flared up where I'm like, I remember going to CBGB's and seeing Dashboard Confessional play solo acoustic, and he played this song called Hands Down, and it was just him on acoustic guitar, and you could buy the EP there, and it was all acoustic, and it was like the greatest EP, and all my friends in high school, we were obsessed with it, and I learned to play it on guitar, and we all sat around singing it, and it was a whole kumbaya thing, right? And then like 2 years later, he puts out a proper album after that, and it's got that same song on it, but it's with a full band. And it's and it was a weird thing for all of us to be like, at the time we were like, sell out, like the real version's the acoustic version that we've been singing in my friend's basement for a year, right? Like, what is this with drums? But now I'm like, no, that's cool. Like, do it again. Yeah. Like, do something different. Mess with it. Like, I am wholly in the sphere of like, you can't damage the past, really. So, like, if they put out the new Ghostbusters movie and you don't like it, well, then you can go watch the old one.
The old one.
Whatever.
That's not going anywhere.
It's not gone as long as you can access it, I guess I should say, which isn't always a given. So yeah, like they remake West Side Story. Don't get mad. Like, just go watch the other one, and if you don't care, whatever.
Yeah.
So I kind of back this. Do you have a take? Like, what do you feel about this kind of thing?
Well, it's the first I've heard of it, and it's also the first time that I've heard of. Obviously, Taylor Swift did it for a specific and very good reason.
Yeah.
And, we've mentioned plenty of times before that we applaud her for that.
Yeah.
Tremendous amount of respect for that. This is the first time I've heard of it being done for just kind of purely an artistic reason. Mm-hmm. Bands don't typically go back in and re-record studio versions of songs, you know what I mean?
Right.
Occasionally you'll have a situation with, like Radiohead, where they've had this big recording session and you get multiple albums worth of material out of it. So you have like 2 or 3 versions of Morning Bell, that kind of thing going on. But if he's going back and recording Loser and Where It's At and things like that, that's, we've had decades go by. So,
Who knows what that sounds like?
Interesting to see. Yeah, because
like
trying to be positive on this show, but the newer Beck stuff doesn't sound particularly inspired to me.
Sure.
The early stuff is like shoestring budget, kind of punk, folk, hip hop melded together, and it was something new and fresh and exciting. Yeah. So what does it sound, post Scientology Beck?
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Post morning phase Beck.
Yeah.
Going back and re-recording some of that stuff. It'll be interesting.
Like, does he do it with Pharrell Williams? I think that's what you're getting. Like, I think it's like you're getting at, like, if he's going to go in and do it with Pharrell Williams, like, maybe I'll pass, but everybody else can enjoy it.
Yeah, we'll see.
It could be cool. Who knows? Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to hear it.
And then the last thing I just wanted to flag, I don't know, we don't talk a lot of TV on here. There's not a whole lot that I watch. I have never been an American Idol or The Voice. We watched The Masked Singer a little bit at one point because that was just bizarre to see Sarah Palin doing Baby Got Back. I'm like, what what am I even looking at right now? But and my wife used to watch Dancing with the Stars, I should actually say. So, but outside of that, like the singing shows, the performance shows, the America's Got Talent, I never did any of those. Do you watch any of that stuff?
I mean, not really. I'll come across some of the, YouTube clips when something is like really shocking or really, really impressive.
Yeah.
But not typically. It's not typically the kind of TV we'll go for.
So Eurovision, there's been the Eurovision Song Contest that's existed in Europe since the late 50s, basically. Like 60 plus year institutional annual thing. And it's kind of neat. They have countries, submitting songs and competing against each other, and it has spawned these like huge moments and these huge songs. ABBA's Waterloo was like a top contender one year. Like it's something that is like highly regarded and has done really well over there. And the most recent one was that band Måneskin that from Italy that just like kind of took the world by storm. But they've come up with a way, and I know they've tried to do it a few times. They've got NBC on board. They've come up with a premise to do it in the States, and I'm kind of interested to see, like, I kind of want to watch the first part and just see how it goes, because I like the idea of it being like state championed. So in Europe, it's by country, and you're like, Spain is rallying behind their person, and Italy's rallying behind their person.
There's one competitor per country,
and I'd like to know who my competitor is. Kind of like there is something like they've got me a little bit in the like, who's the am I going to like the New York person? Like, are they good?
Right.
And if they're not good, I'm probably going to tap right out, but like,
right, exactly.
You stand a chance of having a few states involved, and Texas is a big state. Like, you could get somebody cool in there. So I feel like I want to kind of just dip my toe in when this launches and see if my state is compelling or if there's something compelling there. I'm not a sports guy. I can't use the term we when I'm talking about a team or somebody else. It's like, so I don't think that I'm going to go into this and suddenly start painting my face and talking like that about some rapper or singer songwriter or whatever it is. But it could be cool to have a little bit of like a couch rally, of like, oh my God, this guy's going up against Arkansas. I think you could take him, like. Could be cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Going up against Arkansas.
Yeah.
So the concept has potential, of course. Yeah. Unfortunately, we kind of have a history of taking things from Europe or other parts of the world and kind of ruining them.
Yeah.
But once in a while,
you never know.
I'm not going to sit here and argue which one was better. But once in a while, we'll get The Office. You know what I mean? We'll get something that does turn out to be really, really good.
Has redeeming
and culturally
qualities.
Significant, even if it's arguably, not as good as the original. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's something really amazing. You can make an Office reference and most people will know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, it could turn out to be something like that. My only issue is, what do most Americans have to relate it to? Because so my first introduction to Eurovision was the entirely ridiculous but hilarious Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams movie.
Oh, yeah.
From like a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I didn't know what Eurovision was before that. And it wasn't until I was researching it after the movie that I discovered that it was a real thing.
Yeah.
I thought it was just, part of the movie.
Right.
So, and then later on, I think the next year, the Icelandic artist Dathi Freyr, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. He ended up winning the whole thing with this amazing song, and so I got really into him just as an artist.
Oh wow!
And so that kind of went from a silly Will Ferrell vehicle to becoming reality for me. So
yeah.
But most Americans, what do they have to compare it to? Are they just going to see it as, oh, here's another singing competition show? You know what I mean? We had American Idol, then we had The Voice and The Masked Singer, and now we have this other one. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if they're going to see it as nearly as big of a deal as Europe sees Eurovision.
Yeah.
So it remains to be seen. If they do it right, it could really take off and be very popular. And you're right, it would be very fun to see, like, we have the finals and it's, Texas versus New York or whatever, it ends up being. So that would be fun.
Yeah.
It kind of, that's part of, I'm not big into sports either, hardly at all, but that's part of the fun of it.
The tribalism. Yeah,
exactly. Because, what else do we have to be tribal about anymore other than, politics?
Everything. Yeah. Video games.
It's either console wars or politics.
Marvel versus
versus DC.
Yeah.
Stuff like that of no consequence.
People love fighting.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It remains to be seen, but it's an interesting concept. And if they do it right, it could be fun.
Now I'm looking at this birthday list, and this is stacked. I didn't know that late March was so heavy. This is crazy.
I didn't even go very deep. I stopped at 2 or 3 days in. I was like, all right, I can't go any further because it's just, we're going to take too much time on this. But not a whole lot going on as far as this day in music history, but the birthdays are, you're right, absolutely stacked. So let's start with March 25th, which should be the day that this goes live, 1942. The Queen of Soul herself, Aretha Franklin.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah. Outstanding. I watched Blues Brothers for the first time a little while back, and I knew that there were a ton of cameos in that, but that scene with her,
she was in that.
That scene with her in the restaurant is so freaking good, man. Like, I just rewound it and watched it again. I was like, man, this is so crazy that Aretha freaking Franklin is in a Dan Aykroyd movie with
That's so funny that you're bringing that up, because I literally was staring at and almost purchased earlier today that Blues Brothers album when I was at my local.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know. Am I going to listen to it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I couldn't pull the trigger on it because I already had 2 other albums in my hand.
No, what you should do instead is go buy the Nintendo 64 Blues Brothers 2000 video game instead.
Right, of course.
It's like $20 or something. You can get that.
For a system I don't even have a console for. Absolutely.
Come on. I got one for you here. I got one.
I'll get one eventually.
Yeah.
And then same day, just 5 years later, in 1947, Sir Elton John. I mean, God, what do you have? Singer, songwriter, pianist,
Performer, really. Like that like
serious performer.
Like obviously has written some great songs, but Bernie Taupin wrote and co-wrote a ton of those alongside with him. But just the actual, like the showman, the pageantry, the glasses, the outfits, like
the glasses.
the guy is just one of the greatest showmen of all time.
Yeah, will be known as an icon for, as long as the human race exists.
Yeah.
Entirely.
He's also got like a top 40 hit because he did that song with, I think it's Dua Lipa right now, Cold Heart. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm hearing Elton John on top 40 radio with a current hit right now. But it's almost like what Santana did. I think we talked about this, but it's almost like what Santana did with his duets kind of thing where I'm like, oh man, go you, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, she's an English artist and she's really hot right now.
Yeah.
And it just kind of makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
So I had to go searching for it when we talked about it a while back. I liked it a lot more than I thought I would.
Because it's not like it's not a sample. It's like
right.
But it like it's a referential song. It's really tastefully done.
I like that.
Yeah,
I love that kind of stuff. I like when. Like in Young Americans by David Bowie, when out of nowhere, the background singers come in with, I heard the news today, boy. And then that's it. It's like, what? You just referenced a Beatles song for half a measure, and then it's gone.
Yeah. Genius.
I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I actually really, really dug it. I like it a lot. And I somehow ended up a Dua Lipa fan. So
do it, man. She's fantastic. I said like she's one of those artists where you see it now, and I'm like, I think we're going to be talking about her 10 years from now. I
think so.
Solidly think so. Yeah,
I think so. I agree. Okay, March 26th, 1948. Steven Tyler, singer and frontman for Aerosmith.
Yeah, I mean that guy. Aerosmith was a band that I fell hard for in high school. They resonated with me for whatever reason. Love that band. He's a little guy. He's you see him and Joe Perry next to each other and you wouldn't know it, but they can't be more than like 5'3", 5'2".
Really?
Yeah, like pretty short.
Weird.
Yeah, it's very strange, but like there's the talk about a showman, talk about presence, man. Also, it's weirding me out that both of these guys are basically the same age as my dad. Like my dad's born in 1949 and I'm like, my dad's not Elton John or Steven Tyler. Like that's just crazy, and probably good. No, it's good that he's not, but like
it's a good thing.
Okay.
So then moving away from that era, I guess, March 26th, 1968, James Iha, guitarist of Smashing Pumpkins. Also, all of the wonderful Smashing Pumpkins spin-off projects. He was in Zwan, right? Was he?
No, that was Matt. I think that was just Chamberlain and Billy. I don't think Iha was in that.
I don't have all of my Smashing Pumpkins spin-off projects squared away.
He was in Tinted Windows with Taylor Hanson and Adam Schlesinger.
Yeah, we talked about that.
He was in A Perfect Circle. Yeah, I think he was in A Perfect Circle for a while. Yeah. I'm just trying to remember.
Solo stuff too, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't he have some solo material out there?
Yeah, he does. I'm just trying to think. Like he was gone by... He was in the band for Adore. I think he was gone by Machina. I don't know if he was still in the band for Machina, the Machines of God at Smashing Pumpkins. I'm trying to remember like
he came
when
back
he
at
left.
some point.
Yeah.
I remember being very inspired by his guitar work really early on when I was, just starting to learn guitar and, learning Stone Temple Pilots and Soundgarden and Smashing Pumpkin songs. I just really loved his style. Something like him and Kim Thayil from Soundgarden. I don't know if it was kind of a little bit of something, with Kim, you get a little bit of some kind of, Middle Eastern influence. And I don't know if with James you get some kind of Asian influence, but just something different than the normal like bluesy pentatonic scale that most everybody was soloing with at the time.
Yeah.
It was very different and very inspiring to me to try to, okay, let me bust out of this, they kind of call it getting stuck in the box where you have this one scale that when you're learning how to play and learning how to improvise, and learning different scales typically from different cultures and different parts of the world is how you kind of break out of that.
Yeah.
So he was one of the artists that really got me trying to think outside the box when I was learning guitar, because he was doing things that were kind of out of the ordinary, at least from an American perspective.
Well, and it's another one of those examples of just like, speaking of, you can tell the talent is there by the ability to kind of jump genres.
For sure.
To go into that Fountains of Wayne pop leaning space from the Pumpkins and the Perfect Circle side. And he was in Whiskey Town, which was Ryan Adams' like alt country group for a while too. Yeah. Like he was all over the place, man. It's kind of like, if you need a shredder, like it doesn't matter the genre, the guy is diverse. Like he's, it's stellar. Really stellar.
Cool dude. And then March 27th, 1970, American singer, songwriter, actress, Mariah Carey.
Oh, gosh.
You might know her as the, that there's the meme about them, defrosting her for Christmas to bring out All I Want for Christmas Is You, which is a enormous hit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I remember liking Mariah Carey even back,
the Butterfly era.
When I was a teenager and it wouldn't have been quote unquote cool for me to be into her. I was like, Fantasy, this song slaps.
Yeah, but also like I can't speak for you. I can only speak for myself. But I remember her jumping in the pool in the Honey video and being like, because I think she was like a secret agent or something. So like I was really into the music, but I was also really into the music videos. Like, so I wouldn't go as far as to say that I wasn't supposed to be a fan. I just don't know if I agree with you that maybe I wasn't supposed to be as big of a fan of the music as I was the videos, and I was a fan
gotcha.
I was a fan of both.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what are you gonna do in that age group?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm actually a fan of hers, and I will come to her defense online when she is slighted.
Hell yeah. She deserves.
She's an incredibly talented singer. You know what I mean?
And she deserves the comeback. Like she's the kind of person that I want to see have that return. She should have what we're talking about with Elton John. Like, her business manager needs to figure out who they're pairing her with to properly do something really cool and give her that new breath of air that she deserves, man.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen clips of her doing stuff with Ariana Grande, and I think if they maybe pushed that harder, it seems to fit, because they can both do that crazy high octave thing. I've seen clips of them harmonizing together with that, inhuman ability to go into, just super high, like dolphin mode with their pitch. So
everything
maybe it's something like that.
Yeah, everything that they've tried with her in the past couple of years, whatever it is, always is very hip hop and like more into that like hip hop R&B space, which is fine. Like that's her core. That's where she came from.
Right.
I get it, but I think the right pop combination, like you have Doja Cat, you have Dua Lipa, you have these like massive women like Olivia Rodrigo and Ariana Grande who are owning that space that she created 20 something years ago. Like any of them would be a great fit for her to do something with, man. Yeah.
We'll see. And last but not least, certainly not least, March 27th, same birthday as Mariah Carey, exactly 20 years later, Kimbra, who I have talked about at length on on this podcast, New Zealand singer-songwriter, one of my favorites. She and Gautier won Record of the Year and Best Pop Duo Group Performance for Somebody That I Used to Know, making her only the third New Zealand singer to win a Grammy Award in history. So wow. There's your little bit of trivia today. And that's about it for our birthdays.
All right. We'll flip it over for a game. What do we want to do? You want to stay here?
Yeah, let's flip it over, and we'll start off side B with a game, because our game is a little bit fun and a little bit weird.
It's silly.
And it's silly, and that'll be a good lead into maybe one of the weirdest and silliest pop artists of modern times, Mr. Weird Al Yankovic. Side B of our 20th episode of Retro Groove. We're going to get a little bit weird, but first, let's play a game.
Let's do it.
We've got our game that has stuck around and seems to get more fun as time goes on. Mm-hmm. We get a little bit more acquainted with it. But the game is called What's in a Name? And both Liam and I are going to present 4 birth names to each other of artists that have stage names, and it's up to us to guess who it is that those birth names belong to. Mm-hmm. So I have a little bit of a theme that kind of turned into sort of a double theme. Do you want to go first, or do you want to go second? We do a coin flip.
let me go first. Mine has a distinctive theme.
Nice.
I think it will be fairly easy. I guess I don't know, but it ties into an album that I did not talk about at the top because of my theme, but it's something that it's an album that I revisited. Like, somebody played a song from this the other day, and I was like, oh man, I got to go back to this album, because usually I'm very dismissive, or I just kind of had written it off, and I was like, no, there's so many good bangers on this album. And so once once we get the door open, it's going to be another one of those. Like, once you're in the door, then you know the wheelhouse you're in, and then you can kind of run around. All right. So first one is Sean Combs. Oh,
I know that one. I mean, that's P. Diddy, Puff Daddy.
Right.
That's him.
Go. That's him.
Sure.
That is not. We don't call him Diddy on this podcast. We call him Puffy or whatever it is, because there is only one Diddy.
It's only one Diddy.
All right. So then
that's Diddy Kong.
So my second one then is Christopher Wallace.
Isn't that Biggie? Isn't that Notorious B.I.G.?
That is Biggie. That's correct. Right. There you go. Mason Betha.
So obviously my first guess, based on the first name and the company that we're with at this point, I've got to go with Mace.
That's Mace. That's Mace. There it is. Dang. And then the last name, it's going to be a little trickier, I think. Maybe. I don't know. It's Trevor Smith.
Trevor Smith.
Yeah.
Doesn't ring a bell. I'm trying to think of the company. So we got Puffy, we got Biggie, we got Mace.
Right.
Who else is in that sphere?
And there was an album that featured a lot of people. I mean, like The Lox was on it and Lil' Kim was on it. But Trevor Smith was on an iconic song. He wasn't a bad boy artist, but he might have been at one point. I don't think so. But he does the like kind of chorus call out on a very iconic song for this album. And for me, it was just super exciting because I love Trevor Smith, and I didn't associate him with, I wasn't really a Diddy fan, and I wasn't even super into Biggie. Like, I like Biggie, but he was never my artist. But hearing Trevor Smith on this, like, when I think of this song, I think of Trevor Smith's kind of chorus shout out thing that he does throughout the song instead of the actual verses. The Biggie verses are really solid on this song that I'm talking about, but you could skip the Diddy verses, the Puffy verses.
Man, I thought I had a guess, but then after all of that, I think that went kind of out the window. Trying to think of East Coast artists, but I feel like all right, I'm just gonna take a stab in the dark. It's probably wrong, but I need to move this forward. Let's go with Ludacris.
No, not Ludacris. Not Ludacris. So he had his own kind of group that he was doing stuff with around that time. They were the Flip Mode Squad. You have it?
Well, that probably gave it away, I think.
Okay.
But is it Busta Rhymes?
It is Busta Rhymes.
Busta Rhymes.
Flip Mode was never that big, so you never know. But yeah,
the first thing you think of when you hear Flip Mode is Busta Rhymes.
I guess so. I guess that's true. Yeah. If you know, you know, I guess. I don't think there was anybody in the Flip Mode Squad that ever like went anywhere. So I can't think
of any.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah. But yeah, so that song Victory, man, somebody played that for me again. And I was like, man, other than like maybe some of the Puffy parts where he sounds kind of nerdy, whatever, like this is such a good song. And Busta Rhymes just doing that shout out part throughout the song is just so cool. And
I had completely forgotten about that.
Yeah. And so now I'm like, it's one of those weird late 90s albums where I think there was a vinyl pressing back then because hip hop albums did vinyl pressings. Like you didn't have that for rock albums as much in the 90s, but you did have hip hop vinyl pressings. And so now I'm like, do I hunt this? I might hunt this down. I don't know. I kind of want this album.
Man. It might be one of those that you're going to have to pay $300 for it.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to do that.
No. But, all right. So, man, so that puts me with one guess or with one hint.
Yeah, it's 95 points, I think.
Holy moly.
Yeah. No, yeah. It'll be a daunting hill.
So I definitely have a theme.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, one of the unintentional themes that ended up popping up is names that are quite the mouthful.
Oh, boy.
But... so let me give you just kind of a general overall theme at the very top, and that is iconic British singers.
Okay.
So we are going to start off with hopefully easy mode.
Okay.
And the first is Reginald Kenneth Dwight.
Reginald Dwight. And no hints in the name there, right?
No, not really.
Okay. Reginald Dwight, iconic British singers, we said?
Yes.
Stars? Okay.
Known as singers primarily. He has been mentioned on this episode.
Oh, all right, cool. Let me go back to the show notes. So not Steven Tyler. Oh, then is it Elton John?
It's Elton John.
Nice. Yes. All right, cool. Sweet. Thank you for that.
Reginald Kenneth Dwight.
Wow.
So
go with Elton John.
go to Elton John.
Yeah.
Sir
Reginald. Yeah.
Potential bonus points. I didn't even know this until I was researching for the game. But so he legally changed his name to Elton John.
Okay. Wow.
But what is the middle name of his legally changed stage name? Elton John, the stage name, has a middle name.
Oh man,
this blew me away.
I have no idea. Aloysius.
Aloysius. So he legally changed his name to Elton Hercules John.
What a champion.
I'd never heard that before.
Yeah, why isn't that on all the albums? Come on.
Elton Hercules John.
I guess if you're going to change your name, you might as well just go the distance.
Might as well throw Hercules in there.
Yeah. Good call.
I never knew that before.
Yeah.
But so there's your another bit of fun trivia for the day.
All right.
I don't know how to score that. Let's call that 25.
Okay.
Because you didn't make a guess before, I was just talking.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So we kind of know we're in the ballpark at this point.
Got
it. This next name I'm going to absolutely butcher, and I apologize to anybody offended by my butchering of this name, but it is Farrokh Bulsara, Farrokh Bulsara. Farrokh Bulsara.
I think that's Freddie Mercury.
It is Freddie Mercury.
Okay. I kind of knew his name. He okay. Yeah, because he's Turkish or no, Armenian, something like that. Something that sounds like Farrokh. Yeah.
I don't remember, unfortunately. I should know this, of course. And I have not seen Bohemian Rhapsody, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But I thought that was a good lead off after Sir Elton Hercules John.
That's a good one.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one we're getting maybe a little bit more difficult, maybe not. This is another one that I'm going to absolutely butcher. So my apologies to all of the Greek listeners out there. Little micro hint. But the name is Georgios Kyriakos. Panio. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
George Michael.
It's George Michael.
Got that. Yeah.
Awesome. Man, you're nailing this. Okay. So now we're kind of tied, and if you can get this first try, then I think you win with a perfect score.
All right.
But this is hard mode.
Okay.
So this is Mary Isobel Catherine Bernadette O'Brien. Mary Isobel Catherine Bernadette O'Brien. And there's like no hints in that name whatsoever.
Well, that actually helps me because I was about to go Marianne Faithfull. So that's cool.
No,
right.
I'm not going to count that as a guess.
Yeah,
There is not a single hint in that name whatsoever. British singer, very much associated with the swinging 60s.
Okay.
And that's the last hint that I'm going to give before we dock some points.
Okay. Swinging 60s British singer. I don't even know. I think I'm going to need another hint. I don't even know where to start.
She's pretty well known for her kind of iconic 60s look. She's got like the blonde, kind of bouffant kind of beehive hairstyle,
like a Ronnie Spector kind of thing, or Dolly
that
Parton,
kind of look.
The
British. Thick eyeliner, that kind of whole look. The very very popular look in the 60s.
Yeah.
Let me think. She ended up doing a collaboration with Pet Shop Boys in the late 80s. So her career actually spans a number of decades, not just the 60s, but primarily popular in the 60s. Let's see. That's going to give it away. So she was initially in a folk group whose title was The Blanks, and that blank is the last name of her stage name, or of her stage name.
Okay. Still living or no?
No, she passed away in 99.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. I think we're talking about Dusty Springfield.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yes, it
took
is.
me a little bit to get there. I don't know why I had a blank on that name. I don't know why. I mean, icon.
Yeah. And I'm going to call that one hint, and I'm going to call that a tie game.
All right. Cool. I'll take that.
That was fun.
What was the Mary O'Brien? Mary
Isobel Catherine Bernadette O'Brien.
Wow. Jesus, that is a lot. Man.
That is a number of names in that name. Yes.
All right.
So I've got one of her albums hanging around somewhere.
Yeah. She's cool.
Find it. Anyway, so that was a fun and a little bit weird version of What's in a Name.
Mm-hmm.
And our feature this episode is the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Weird Al Yankovic.
Right.
And I don't know what took us so long to feature him. And, maybe, because there's some rumblings of some new Weird Al media coming out at some point, hopefully this year.
Yeah.
We kind of haven't heard a whole lot from him recently. And, within the past couple years or so. So that may be why. But I mean, Weird Al is just an American. I don't think it's a stretch to call him an American treasure, honestly.
Oh yeah.
I don't think you can say that about a ton of people. But as far as pop culture goes, I mean, one of the big staples of American pop culture in general is parody and poking fun at, what's popular and using that, kind of atmosphere to kind of push things forward. Once you, and, Kurt Cobain himself said it, once Weird Al parodies one of your songs, you've made it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's almost like once Weird Al parodies your song, you're kind of old news at that point.
Yeah. Although Kurt Cobain also famously in the phone call, I think he said, "Can it not be about food?" or something like because there's so many eating and food songs that Al does, like I Love Rocky Road and My Bologna and Eat It and Fat and
it's funny, not my first Weird Al album, but my first Weird Al CD was a compilation called The Food Album.
Oh wow.
And which I've never seen, at any point in the last 20 years or so, but in the probably mid 90s, shortly after getting my first CD player, I think it was like maybe the second CD I ever owned after like Counting Crows or something like that.
Yeah.
Was the Food Album. Yeah, it was Rocky Road, Spam.
Yeah.
So yeah, food, lots of food and eating related songs.
Yeah.
But that was not my first introduction to Weird Al. And so I'm very curious. So Liam, if you don't mind, what was your earliest memory of Weird Al, or your kind of introduction to Weird Al and kind of what he does?
I gotta apologize and say that I think I have two that I need to mention.
That's fine.
Because there's two different things that kind of happened, at least for me, with Weird Al. So there was the music video for Fat, right? Where you're like, he's like in that black jumpsuit with the zippers and the buckles and the stuff, and all of a sudden he's just inflating and he can't get through the subway turnstile. And I've thought about this kind of thing a bunch, and we've talked about like Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer and George Harrison's I've Got My Mind Set on You. Like there's these music videos that I don't know why my parents had MTV on so much, you know, like
right.
I don't know why I saw these music videos, because I saw them when they came out and I must have been 4, 3.
Yeah,
I don't know,
not
like,
necessarily age appropriate.
Yeah, like it's very strange. I have, let me actually look here. Yeah, this is 88. Fat came out. So like
there it is.
I was 4 years old when I was watching this music video, and I remember that, right?
Yep.
And I remember the music video was so cool. And I also remember there was a Beverly Hillbillies, The Money for Nothing song.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember the music video for that. But I was a 5-year-old kid. I didn't get it. I didn't get into Weird Al. It just seemed like a weird thing. And then I'd say it was probably, well, here, that's why I got my CDs kind of laid out here, because I still got all these things here. So 96. So then I'm a 12-year-old boy. Sorry, I just hit my mic. I'm a 12-year-old boy. And Amish Paradise just takes the world by storm, man. I mean, that song.
Bad Hair Day, right?
Yeah, Bad Hair Day just permeated like my social circle. And this is the first CD that I ever bought. The first CD with my own money that I went, and it doesn't even have a Buzz Club wall sticker on it. Hadn't had that yet. But like my buddy Smitty had this album and he lent it to me, and I got a CD player so I could listen to this album. Because it's like, look, it's like there was Amish Paradise, which was huge, right? Yeah. And then there was Gump. And I hadn't seen Forrest Gump. I didn't even know what he was talking about. I'm a 12-year-old kid. I'm not watching Forrest Gump. But I'd heard the song Lump on the radio, and now there's this Gump, and so I think it's cool.
It's hilarious, right?
The non-parody songs, like the original songs in here on this, I thought were so good. There was the Night Santa Went Crazy.
Yes.
What do you even... He kills the reindeer. Like, he legitimately obliterates the reindeer. I'm like, what am I listening to? What is this? I can't believe this is happening.
I know.
But the last thing I'll shout out on this is, so starting with the second album, he has his polka medley, right?
Right. Yes.
And the polka medley is such a great place to like then suddenly, I mean, the number of times I should say that I've heard the source material and been like, oh, hey, I heard him play accordion to that song.
Right.
You know, like, oh my
You heard Weird
God.
Al do it first on the medley.
Yeah. I love REM. The first time I heard Bang and Blame off of Monster, I think it's on, I was like, yeah, I heard this on Bad Hair Day. I remember him going bang, 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 blame, 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 like with an accordion. So I remember taking this CD over to my Aunt Barbara's house, and we'd be visiting with them, and I would just be like sitting on the back patio, compulsively listening and learning every lyric to this album. I thought it was the funniest thing. I couldn't believe there was this guy doing this. And what's weird is I definitely also remember my dad was kind of jazzed about me liking this, and I thought that was kind of lame. And now I look at it and I look at this and I'm like, no, this is dad jokes. This is the dad joke records.
It's
like these
very
are all these
dad
are.
Jokey.
But it's okay. But why it's okay? It's okay. I was okay with dad jokes in this form then.
Yep.
It did, and I don't know if you had this experience. It definitely made my dad feel like he could then come up with parodies, and I was like, stop it. Like,
You're not Weird Al.
This isn't funny. Don't do it. I'm sure every dad was like, yeah, I can do what Weird Al does.
I can do that.
So I adore Weird Al. I adore this album and many others. What about you? What's your experience?
Well, actually, my experience was very similar, except just maybe slightly different on the timing. But the first thing being the Fat music video was absolutely a core memory for me. So, like, I remember. Do you remember being a kid and like your dad would take you over to someone's house that you've never been to, and it's like a family friend usually, and he's like, oh, it's Uncle so-and-so, and like, you know, their buddy, and you're like, I have no idea who this person is, and you're calling them Uncle so-and-so. Okay, they have Atari, I guess they're cool, so let me just hang out in here. So I remember going to some, you know, who to me was a stranger, but my dad, you know, insisted that they were our friends, and it was Uncle so-and-so, somebody I've never met before. And on the TV was the Fat music video. I don't know if it was just on TV or what, but it was playing. And I mean, I obviously knew initially and instinctually that it was making fun, or it was a parody of the Michael Jackson video, because I had seen that. Yeah. But, you know, so I would have been like maybe 6 or 7 at that time. Yeah. And I was like, what is this? Like, this is a thing that exists? Yeah. Like, is this like, did his like friend make this? Like, what is this? So that was my very first introduction to Weird Al. And then, kind of like you, some years go by, because there was no internet. There was no, you know what I mean?
You had MTV, basically. That was it.
Yeah. I couldn't go and look up Weird Al on a streaming service or on YouTube or on the internet at all, because it didn't exist yet. Yeah. So some years go by, and then a friend of mine had a tape. And it was Off the Deep End. Okay. Which is his 1992 album.
Yeah, with the Nirvana cover.
Yes, it's the parody of the Nirvana cover with him in a swimming pool chasing after a donut. On a hook. Yeah. And it leads off with Smells Like Nirvana. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we all know the story of Kurt Cobain knowing he had made it because Weird Al was suggesting the parody for Smells Like Teen Spirit. Mm-hmm. And that music video was all over the place. And that was that was kind of like the second wave of Weird Al, I think. Like the beginning of his kind of second wave. Coming out of the 80s, Nirvana is the biggest thing in the universe at that point, and he comes out of the gate with a music video that is so strikingly similar. And you have to give props to, I think without his music video parodies, I don't think he quite has the same level of fame. No. Because he doesn't just parody the song, which would, you know, for maybe some people would have been good enough. Mm-hmm. But he parodies the music video, and sometimes frame for frame. Yeah. And actually, in the case of the Smells Like Nirvana video, uses the same extras that were in the Nirvana video. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, you've got so many moments that just stick in your head forever, like the gargling with water mimicking the guitar solo and things like that. Yeah, it's like, you know, me and our friends, we would go grab a cup of water and get ready for it and gargle along with the music video.
Man, that's amazing.
And then what's so funny and how this is kind of speaks to how much Weird Al permeates the culture. Do you ever, even to this day, get the thing happen where a song will be on and in your brain, the Weird Al lyrics are stronger than
100%.
like
There is no American Pie. American Pie is not a song that I sing. I sing Anakin Guy. I don't know. Yeah, no, 100%. He's totally Berenstain Baird half of the songs that he's
absolutely.
Yeah.
In the future, it'll be interesting to see like which version of the song is, in the ancient tomes that future civilizations thousands of years ago, from now will dig up.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing, going back and listening to some of these songs earlier today from this album, is the right after Smells Like Nirvana, which is like kind of the big, that's like the album seller for this one, is a song called Trigger Happy. Do you remember this song?
No.
It's an original, and it's kind of a, how he does what he calls style parodies, where it's not a parody of a particular song, but it'll be like,
a reggae.
Exactly.
Right.
So this is like an early Beach Boys style parody.
Okay.
And it's all about, just this guy that is super, Second Amendment, gung ho about like,
really?
I'm trying to remember lyrics off the top of my head. And it's like, I remember thinking like, oh my God, you could not make this song today.
Oh.
Because it's so, I'm going to pull up some lyrics here because it's so, just like almost kind of shocking, even though I listened to this as a child, literal child.
That's what I'm saying.
It was
like
hilarious.
That Santa song, he like talks about like taking a flamethrower to Donner and Blitzen. I'm like, what?
So like in the style of Beach Boys, this song comes right out of the gate. And he goes, got an AK-47. Well, it makes me feel all right. Like this. And it just gets worse from there. Well, you can't take my guns away. I got a constitutional right. Like it goes on and on from there.
I have to go back to this song. That sounds
He talks about shooting first and asking questions later. Like, like the song is, he's singing about shooting people.
Yeah.
And it's like, this was the early 90s. This was pre-Columbine. This was before you really had school shootings as, unfortunately kind of a relative norm in this country.
Yeah.
And it's kind of shocking a little bit to hear him making light of it.
Yeah.
I accidentally shot Daddy last night in the den. Like, it's just crazy.
Oh my God, Adam. What is this song?
You gotta listen to it. It's literally right after Smells Like Nirvana, the second track on the album.
I don't know.
So everybody's gonna hear it if they listen to the album.
Yeah.
It's right after the like hit first song. So that was an interesting moment.
I went back and listened to some of that stuff, but I never owned that album. I need to go track that down.
Yep. He says, got a brand new semiotic weapon with a laser sight. Oh, I'm praying someone tries to break in here tonight.
Yeah. No, I'm not wholly surprised because I was just looking back because there's a song on Bad Hair Day called I Remember Larry. And it was like the first two verses of it are, hey, remember when that guy would like put Bengay in my jockstrap, or like, oh my God, it was so funny. He played all these pranks on us. It's just like describing like this completely obnoxious dude. And then the last version is, do you remember when I broke into his house, dragged him, tied his mouth with a rag, dragged him by his ankles to the middle of the forest and stuffed him in a bag. And if the cops ever find him, who knows what they'd say. And I'm like,
whoa,
you killed the guy? Like,
oh,
the Amish paradise. What are you talking about?
I know, right?
You're killing
and
reindeer.
It's always on the same album as these like, relatively benign but funny hit songs.
Yeah.
So, you kind of had a little bit of a dark side. And of course, as an adult, you're reading it and it's clearly, satire.
Yeah.
But, when you're in the modern kind of cancel culture, environment, there's no room for satire.
Yeah.
So it's just funny to go back and listen to some of these, 30 years later.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, you would be canceled immediately.
Yeah. Now, speaking of satire, because it's interesting because we've used both words in this. We've used parody and satire. And I won't go super far down the rabbit hole, but just like as a touch point so that it's a reference for everybody, on the conversation of him doing this to begin with, because I think that it's a daunting thing that has kind of prevented a lot of anybody, because you don't really have other WeirdAls, right? It seems like something that somebody should have done by now. But like the law is very gray on what you can get away with and what you can't. And so parody is legally covered under US law as freedom of speech, but satire is not. Satire is considered something where you could do it and not have to use the source material, whereas a parody has to use the source material. And a lot of times he's not parodying. It's satire. A parody is the Nirvana thing. He didn't need to call Kurt Cobain because he's singing a song about Nirvana. He's playing a Nirvana song and he's making fun of Nirvana, right?
Right. And he's always made that clear where he doesn't legally have to get their permission, but he does so out of respect.
But for Fat, he kind of does. And I think that's why he does it. He's also just a really good dude and wants to engage with the community. But for Fat, that's satire. Like he's taking an existing thing. He's not making fun of Michael Jackson. He's not making fun of the song. He's taken it and he's put new lyrics and a new subject matter on it. And when it becomes satire, technically you need the copyright holders okay on it, because technically you're using somebody's content for a brand new message that has nothing to do with the original material.
Such a weird gray area.
It is.
Legally speaking.
And it's run into certain spots before where like he got pushback from certain artists. There's the famous Coolio thing where like the agent said that he could do it, and so he did it, and it's not a parody. It is satire. It's not making fun of Coolio. And Coolio then said he wasn't okay with it, but he cashed the checks and everybody shook their hands after the fact and everything was fine.
Right.
There was also like a weirdness around, it was an Eminem song and it was for Lose Yourself and he didn't want him to do it. I don't think it was Couch Potato. It was something else, but there was an Eminem song where he had a similar thing where Eminem was like, you can do another song. Don't do that one. And he did it anyway because he thought he got the green light from somebody. So it can, again, when you're doing those kind of handshake agreements, things can get a little dicey.
Yeah.
I unearthed a situation here that was in that same vein. So he had wanted to do a couple of Beatles or Beatles related songs. And I don't think he's ever done one.
No.
He wanted to do for Bad Hair Day. He wanted to do some kind of parody of Free as a Bird. And apparently McCartney said it was fine, but because it was either a John song or a John co-write, it went to it had to go to Yoko. And he was like, it's up to Yoko. And Yoko shut it down.
Yeah, of course.
But he also wanted to do... And he apparently this one he has performed live but never recorded it. He asked Paul if he could do Live and Let Die as Chicken Pot Pie. Another food song.
I know this one. Yep.
I've never heard Chicken Pot Pie, but I
haven't either.
I want to.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but the story goes that the only reason why Paul wasn't cool with it, because he was a fan of Weird Al, right?
Yeah.
Or is.
Yeah.
The only reason that he wasn't cool with it is because Paul is a vegetarian.
Right.
And he said, well, yeah, you can do it. Just do like veggie pot pie.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, that doesn't work.
Yeah. Not as funny. And the other one, the last one that I have flagged here, going back to that, the Money for Nothing Beverly Hillbillies song that I distinctively remember, like, that one's such a unique situation. When he reached out, Knopfler agreed to it by insisting that he plays on it, right?
Right. He
But
had to play the guitar on it.
But that song isn't necessarily a parody or satire. It's kind of a mashup. It's really because he like, and you can see it in the way it's labeled. And I saw an interview where Al was like, if I could, maybe I don't know, I don't know how I could have done it any differently, but like I really wanted it to be labeled X, Y, or Z, because he basically just took the lyrics to the Beverly Hillbillies song or the theme song and merged it onto the melody and sound of Money for Nothing. So Al didn't really write anything for it. He did a mashup of two things. He sang on it. He's the performer, but like he didn't.
I think that song only makes sense in the context of the movie.
UHF,
Yes. So if you see it in when it happens in UHF, he is, trying to run this TV station, and he's, up late working on, paperwork or whatever for the TV station, and a literal episode of Beverly Hillbillies is playing on the TV, and he falls asleep. And this music video is like his weird fever dream of mashing up, Beverly Hillbillies and, whatever music is playing in his head. So it's funny how it only really makes sense in the context of, the story of what's going on in UHF. And, we could have a whole episode on UHF.
I know, right? And Al TV, I mean, he would take over. He had such a great relationship with MTV. And I feel like I remember certain things and weird little parody segments that they built on that. But it does make you think, like, I don't know if Weird Al would have existed if MTV didn't happen, or it wouldn't have been what it was, because we both just talked about how impactful certain music videos and stuff were, and
absolutely
continued to be through Running with Scissors. Even like from the 80s into the early 2000s, it was his music video stuff that really kind of kept him in the cultural conversation.
Definitely. Yeah. It, because that, I would venture to say you ask pretty much anybody what their first memory of Weird Al is, and it's a music video, like 9 times out of 10. It's also really interesting, some of the things just culturally that happen. Like, I don't know how much you were into or know about the Alapalooza album from 93.
I don't.
But so he comes out of what's the big thing in 93 culturally speaking? It's Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park, right?
So he leads off with this crazy, like in a million years you would never think that this would work, but it's a parody of MacArthur Park, and he turns it into Jurassic Park. So it's like, what is that even? Is that a parody? Is that just like what he's just like? He's just riffing on popular culture at large. And like, who else does that to that degree? It's nuts. And then on that same album, rather than this is one album where he doesn't do the whole polka medley. He doesn't do the polka medley on this album. He does an entire polka version of Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh my God, really?
I feel like this gets like forgotten, or it's been lost to time a little bit, but it's the last song on the album. It's called Bohemian Polka, and it's the entirety of Bohemian Rhapsody in polka form, in Weird Al polka form.
Oh my God.
So that was probably like the third or fourth CD I ever owned. That's an insane album. There's so much. I mean, you've got a Red Hot Chili Peppers parody. You've got him doing Living in the Fridge instead of Living on the Edge by Aerosmith. And these are just like,
I think I need to go back. So here's the thing. I remember after I got into Weird Al, going to Borders Books and Music and going to the Weird Al section after I got Bad Hair Day and seeing Alapalooza and the Polka album and something else. And I was like looking at the back of them and I'm like, I don't get the references here.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if
Yep.
I'm going to grab this or not. And once he started putting out more music that then I had the reference point for,
Right.
I was hooked for the next 2 or 3 albums. Like Running with Scissors was huge for me because when he did the polka medley for that album, I actually knew like half the songs at that point. Like it was Intergalactic by Beastie Boys and Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba and stuff. And I'm like, no, I know all these now. Like I'm in the MTV generation, you know, like, so I need to go back because now I have an appreciation for those songs that you just said. Right?
Yeah, now
like,
you know the songs.
I feel like those might hit really nicely. You know, Living in the Fridge sounds hilarious.
It is hilarious, and that's just one of the really, really unique things about Weird Al and what he does is because, you know, when the albums would drop, they were, and he's mentioned this too, where, you know, at the time it was like a mad scramble to try to get these albums out while the songs were still relevant. Right. And then, you know, with the internet, things are very, very different. And I think he's even said like, you can't really do an album anymore the way that I used to do it. But he would come in and it would be like, almost like a hodgepodge and like a scrapbook of the music and the popular culture of that year.
Yeah.
And you don't really necessarily get that with any other artists. And then, so you've got, you know, people in the 80s becoming Weird Al fans because of like the Michael Jackson parodies and everything that was happening then. And then you've got people in the early 90s that came in on the, you know, the Nirvana stuff and the Jurassic Park stuff. And then you've got people coming in the late 90s with the, you know, Coolio and All About the Pentiums and all of that.
Oh my God, dude. All About
and
the
it keeps
Pentiums.
Perpetuating. So he's got this ridiculous 40-year plus career where he's just constantly, you know, riffing on the culture every single step of the way and hitting home runs every single time.
Yeah.
And that's kind of unprecedented.
It is. I think the weird thing also for me, though, was that it felt like a long time in between albums. And early on, it really wasn't. And then when...
It definitely wasn't early on, yeah.
And when I was listening to him actively, it wasn't even that much. I mean, it was literally like a gap of maybe 2 or 3 years between albums, which was normal for everyone. But for some reason, because it was contextual to pop culture and pop culture continued on throughout all that time, it did always feel like, where's Weird Al? And then when he would reemerge, you'd be like, oh, okay, cool, him again. Like what's he got this time? And then it was really hot to that, like you said, it was like an interesting swath
a
of
little
what
microcosm
of like the past year. And then it would go away because he really wasn't touching things that had happened 3 or 4 years ago. And I do think that the cadence probably got a little too crazy. I think that...
Yeah, the culture just moves so much faster, right?
Yeah, I think he had in the 80s and 90s, there was undeniable culture and it lasted longer because you didn't have the internet. You're right.
Exactly.
And because you weren't moving so fast. And now the churn is so rapid that you probably, I mean, if you watch an Olivia Rodrigo video and you think of the parody and you go in and you cut the song, by the time it's out there, it's probably an old song at this point, or somebody's done it on TikTok. So like,
exactly.
I was gonna like throw in at this point, why don't we think that there's not another established Weird Al? But maybe there can't be. Maybe there just won't be, because I think like, what other musical comedy acts or artists do I love? And the Lonely Island come up because the Lonely Island, but they had their own version of MTV with their own playground, which was SNL. Like they could just throw things on SNL and do a cultural moment and a song, and it was great.
Right.
They're the closest thing that I think that generation, the just younger than us, has to a Weird Al is the Lonely Island.
Yes.
And maybe there's something else that comes along that's like that afterwards. It's probably someone on TikTok that I have no idea who it is because #old. But like, I don't. I'll ride or die with Al, you know. And I still love
For
Lonely
sure.
Island too. I feel like
Yeah.
that bridged that gap really nicely. But
For sure.
yeah.
I think you're right on the money there. I can't really think of any artists. I mean, maybe like something like Flight of the Conchords comes to mind a little bit, but other than that, there's really not a whole lot out there in the way of, you know, straight up what you would consider comedy music artists that you would like buy an album and listen to.
Oh wow.
Lonely Island really is the closest that we've got, and
Yeah.
I'm glad that we have them. I'm a big fan, but and you're right. I think without SNL, they don't really have quite the audience or the exposure or the, you know, the quick turnaround, topical, timely. You know, it's just how the culture moves. You know, even considering something like video games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How long was like Mario Kart 64 popular? Like years and years. It was like everyone wanted to play that, and that was it. And now it's like something is hot for 2 weeks, and then it's old news.
The next thing, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if it's. Go ahead.
Speaking of the Lonely Island, though, not to go off on a tangent, but I just finally saw the trailer for Chippendale Rescue Rangers. I did not know what that movie is. Have you seen it?
I have not seen the trailer.
Do you know what the premise of the movie is at all?
I don't know the premise of the.
Okay.
All I know is it's Chippendale Rescue Rangers and it's John Mulaney and Andy Samberg. That's all I know.
Yeah. Okay. You should just go watch it. But I'm watching this and I'm like, oh, the sense of humor permeates, right? Like the Lonely Island, even though they're not doing that thing anymore, there's still Lonely Island writing. There's still Lonely Island humor. And I also, just because he is who he is, I have to give a shout out to Tom Green, because I feel like for me, Tom Green bridged my musical and cultural humor gap between Weird Al and the Lonely Island. Like I had and again, it was MTV, like it was videos, it was funny songs that he did. I have his album on vinyl. Like he,
nice.
I've seen him live. You know, like Tom Green.
Incredible. Tom
Green was that like Jackass era of comedy, but like I don't know why. I don't know why it spoke to me so much. But there have been these comedic creators who kind of found other outlets. It wasn't just stand up or improv or whatever. They found other ways to do things. But yeah, I don't know if there'll ever be another Weird Al. I did really quick. I just did a quick search because I remembered there was something with Couch Potato and Eminem that I just mentioned, and I looked it up to see what it was. So if I could just, of
course.
So Couch Potato, it's a song that was on Poodle Hat, which came out in 2003, and it's a parody of Lose Yourself, which is probably Eminem's biggest song, right? And culturally, iconically, one of his biggest songs. And he greenlit it to be done, and so it exists on that album. But when they went to put it out as the single, he yanked it back. He didn't allow it. He didn't allow it to be like this promoted thing because he thought it would be bad for his image. And so Al was like, he had this whole music video planned and everything, and that had to get scrapped too. Again, I don't know what the legal ramifications are there, but it is satire and not parody in that case. And so it might be that Eminem had the ability to pull the plug or to have some say on it. But it's interesting that the song exists. It's a very funny song, but it's interesting that the song exists. It's out there. You could stream it now. It's on streaming platforms, but he was never able to capitalize on the MTV-ness of that. And I'd say like there is a sort of like era in that mid 2003, 2004, where you don't really see and hear Al as much. And like the MTV thing doesn't happen as much. And maybe things would have been different if that video had been greenlit. Maybe Eminem screwed up Weird Al. Like, come on, dude. Damn. But you got to respect the artist, right? Like he feels strongly about his art. So
yeah, I mean, the other really tragic and crazy thing, and this might explain some of the gap kind of around that time, but that's, I'm gonna have to look up the actual dates here, but his parents actually, both of his parents died in a carbon monoxide poisoning accident.
Freak accident.
In 2004.
Yeah.
So that kind of tracks with that kind of gap there. So, you know, it's always, we think of artists and it's like, you know, give us more content. And it's like, these are people that have lives and families and things that happen. So, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But hopefully we'll get some more. I know he's done kind of some collaborations here and there, within the past, few years, but, you know, with the internet, you know, he could put out music videos on YouTube and be very timely with it and things like that. So, you know, I don't know what to expect, moving forward from him. But anything is possible. We've seen, you know, how his career can be somewhat feast or famine. So, I'm not sure what to expect, because even he himself is basically like, you know, and I think one of his relatively recent interviews was like, I don't have anything planned right now, but inspiration could strike tomorrow and you could see something in less than a month, but we don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So something has to hit at the right time where it's hugely, you know, almost universally popular, or at least universally known, and, you know, just hit right at the right time where he can swing in with something that hits. And I feel like he, at this point, and he seems to always have had a knack for it, but it has to be something that's going to be a solid home run, or he's not going to do it.
Yeah.
He seems to know the difference between a home run and it's not going to be a smash.
Well, and that's maybe why this whole movie thing makes a lot of sense for him to do, right? Like, he's an older guy now. He's got a great story. The weird moments that must have happened that we don't even know behind the scenes at something like UHF or Al TV or his Weird Al show. He had a TV show for a year.
The Weird Al show.
The Saturday morning show. So I'm interested to see, because he's involved with this. First of all, Harry Potter, like Daniel Radcliffe playing Weird Al Yankovic, gonna be fantastic. I can't wait to see what that's like, because he has gone and done so many different things. He's a great actor, and he's played these really like oddball storylines, with like interacting with talking corpses and odd mental stuff, whatever. Like, there's been so many weird things that guy has done with his career. Now that he's like established himself as Harry Potter, he could just really go and do anything. I like Daniel Radcliffe a lot. I would love to see, or can't wait to see, what he looks like as Al, and what, like, how Al's going to help tell his story. Like, I do like when it's a biopic that has an involved person. I guess it depends on the situation, but I think Al will be pretty honest and genuine about stuff. I remember watching his Behind the Music a lot, and he was always just very transparent and told great stories. This will be really cool. I'm very excited to see this.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I don't quite know what to expect, but, you know, if he has any part in it whatsoever, it's going to be a home run. It's just that I've come to expect that level of quality, because that's all he puts out is home runs.
Yeah.
And then I guess the last thing that I'll hit on, I'm actually looking at it right now. Have you seen him live at any point?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
So I'm looking at tickets right now. He's actually coming around in Austin in October of this year. Actually at the Moody Theater, ACL Live. So, tickets are in the $70 to $80 range at the starting point. So I'm looking at that. But if I end up being able to make that happen, that'll actually be the third time that I'm seeing him.
You've seen him before.
Live. Oh, yes. So
come on, Dish. Because his band's great. His band's been with him since the 80s. Dude, it's the same dudes.
So the guy that was just kind of shooed in at the very last minute to slap the accordion case for Another One Rides the Bus live on the Dr. Demento show turned out to be his drummer and is still his drummer 40 plus years later.
Wow.
Like his band that he formed together in the early 80s is still his core band to this day.
Yes.
I first saw him as a teen when I was a teenager at a venue called the Melody Tent in Hyannis, Massachusetts. And I think the big number at the end was Yoda. And this venue is kind of unique in that it was a big circular venue under a literal tent, like a big kind of circus tent style. And the stage actually rotated.
Oh my gosh.
So it was very weird. I somewhere I still have a guitar pick from that show.
Come on, Adam.
The guitar player. I don't know where it is. I haven't seen it for years, but every 5 to 10 years it'll show up in a random box of stuff, and it's like a white Fender pick, and I'm like, I don't have any ever. I've never seen any other white Fender pick, so I know exactly which one it is. And every once in a while it'll show up in my random boxes of stuff. When you move from one place to the next, and there's always a handful of boxes that never actually get fully unpacked.
Right.
It's in one of those. And then probably somewhere in the ballpark of 3 to 4 years ago, Dan and I went to go see him play with the Austin Symphony Orchestra.
What?
Yeah, he did like this whole tour where he played with an orchestra in each city that he went to. And one of the highlights, a couple of highlights, but they actually, did the whole Star Wars thing with literal like stormtroopers on the stage and Darth Vader on the stage and R2-D2 on the stage.
Oh my gosh.
For The Saga Begins, right? So that was amazing. But also because they had like the full blown, orchestra with the brass section and everything, he said, this is the first time in my career where we've been able to actually play Harvey the Wonder Hamster live.
Oh my gosh.
For those unaware, Harvey the Wonder Hamster is like a little 30-second song with like a brass, march fanfare singing about Harvey the Wonder Hamster. And so they played it, and I got to see
amazing.
Him play Harvey the Wonder Hamster live.
Wow.
It was amazing. So we'll see. We'll see about October this year if I can make it happen. It'll be the third time seeing him. And what is Weird Al going to play in 2022? That's kind of that's what I'm curious about. Just kind of go over, his set was all over the place when we saw him a few years ago.
So I'm looking at the tour dates now. He's got a gig that is like a 20-minute drive from me, but it's all sold out for May. He's playing Carnegie Hall, though, in October.
What?
Do I need to see Weird Al at Carnegie Hall? I might need to see Weird Al at Carnegie Hall.
I feel like that's a pretty iconic.
That's amazing.
For my area, him playing ACL Live at the Moody Theater is iconic. But for you, Carnegie Hall is like,
wow.
How do you do better than that?
Yeah.
What's up? What, Madison Square Garden? Is that like the only step up from from that.
I think I need to see Weird Al at Carnegie Hall. Okay, I have things to think about.
Well, you have to see, because you haven't before. You have to see Weird Al live. Yeah. You have to. So,
man. Okay, I think I'm doing this. I'm going to text Mark says hi, and because I know he'll roll with me if he. I think yeah. Okay, I'm gonna see about this. This is awesome.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
If it's going to be, it might end up being my first concert of the past 3 years.
No way. You're going to go out to something. You're going to come on here at some point this summer. You're going to be like, dude, I was at Stubbs the other day. You'll never believe what I saw. You're gonna see something this summer. I know you're gonna see something this summer because there'll be outdoor shows. You're gonna go to Auditorium Shores or something like that. Zilker Park.
Well, actually, Ghost Funk Orchestra is swinging by in
whoever that is. Come on, they sound great.
They're a New York band. You gotta get into Ghost Funk Orchestra.
Ghost Funk Orchestra. I'm writing this down.
So they're on. They're on Karma Chief. So we love Karma Chief on this podcast. So Ghost Funk Orchestra is coming to town. I know that. I know. I want to say
that's indoors though. That show's indoors. It looks like.
Yeah, the one in Austin is indoors too. So I'm a little bit kind of, and it's only like a week or two away. So I'm not 100% on that. But We'll figure something out. It's got to be mind blowing. It's got to be mind blowing, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's something before October, but I'm making a very strong effort to see Weird Al in October. Let's do it. Let's make this pact.
Everybody go see Weird Al.
Everybody go see, because you never know when someone's like, "Yep, I'm done touring."
Yeah, for sure. Especially, you get older, you get tireder, you're not, and also like his kind of music, like it'll still be funny when he's in his 70s. Who am I kidding? Like it's still going to be fun, but I want to see him now.
Yeah, he's got enough of a multi-generational audience that he could perform for the rest of his life, no doubt.
Yeah.
But you just never know with he can do whatever he wants. He's not tied to any contracts or anything like that. He could just, he's also kind of a private dude when it comes to his personal life, and he could just be like, "Man, I've done everything I set out to do in my career and I'm done."
Yeah.
And who wouldn't respect him for that? So, that's all I have to say about Weird Al. I mean, I could go deeper dives into individual songs and individual albums, but
we'll save that for Dan. Dan will come on at some point. Yeah,
we'll do. We'll have to do.
When the movie comes out, we can do a whole thing. We can have a little group on, and we can talk about movie
and maybe post all of us seeing him in October.
I hope so.
Get back together and do a whole Weird Al follow-up episode. Yeah. It'll be great. But
I agree.
But this was a very fun and very satisfying 20th episode. Thank you so much, listener, for sticking with us all of this time. And come check us out in the RetroLogic Discord. We are part of the RetroLogic network. You can check out the website, retrologic.games, for social links, merchandise, community, and more. The best online community that I have ever been a part of. Just so overwhelmingly supportive and positive. Talk about music, games, movies. I mean, we're just happy to just bounce all kinds of fun media and experiences off of each other. So check it out. Till next time, stay weird.
Yeah, stay weird.